the unmet medical need in the emerging markets, and what's basically, in a global biomanufacturing as a capacity, and where we stand actually as India. The second part I'm going to actually take you through, the few examples which we have, of the case studies which are there at Kemwell, and how we collaborated with some of the Indian as well as some of the big multinational companies, and how we think that, those kind of biopharma and CDMO collaborations will be successful, and how it will, bring India, particularly the CDMO, to the global map. So if you see here, unmet medical need, as compared to China or maybe, of course, United States, we are way behind. So there is there is a huge unmet medical need. The treatment rates are extremely low in India as well as the emerging market. For example, for the breast cancer, the treatment rates are as low as 15%, whereas in the US, it's almost 70%. In China, it's almost 25% to 30%. So we are way behind. So although we do have, several biosimilars approved by the government of India, but still that accessibility as well as the affordability is a question mark. Look at the market demand here. So if you see the global biosimilar market, it's around 15 billion, and around 5 billion out of that will be contributed from the emerging markets. One important thing I want to highlight here is basically the standard monoclonal antibodies. That's what actually going to play a crucial role in future as well, although there will be next generation antibodies such as bispecific, trispecifics, as well as cell and gene therapy. But having said that, 15 out of 20 molecules will still be monoclonal antibodies, where we believe as Indian CDMOs have a lot of experience and expertise in delivering in both development as well as manufacturing. Now the market demand, if we see here, again, China is way ahead of India and many other emerging markets. Currently, they are at 2 billion. They are going to grow at a 20 to 25% rate. And by 2025, their market share will be almost 8.1 billion. Whereas India is going to grow at a 15 to 20%. And the market share by 2025 will be around 1.4 billion. So I still feel that, India could, have a lot of opportunities in case if we collaborate. The Indian companies as well as Indian biopharma companies as well as, the CDMOs in India. If they collaborate, I guess we can increase this ratio from maybe 25% to maybe 30%. So the global, the biopharma manufacturing capabilities as such, we are nowhere there. If you see the companies listed here on the right-hand side table, these are all big CDMOs as well as, the big pharma companies, those who control, the majority of biomanufacturing capacity all over the world. So there are around 10 companies which controls that. And those capacities are in the lakhs. And in India, if you count actually, we are in thousands only. So so I have captured actually 4, major players in the CDMO space, such as Samsung, Lonza, Wuxi, and Boehringer Ingelheim. All of them have presence in, either in China and South Korea. So none of them are actually coming to India. And then therefore, I see that as a big opportunity for Indian CDMOs to expand, to increase, and see that we offer, a solution to the local companies as well as the global biopharma companies. Now, again, coming back to the global biomanufacturing capacities, there are various scales, like, right from 2,000 liter to maybe 10,000 and above manufacturing scales. What we believe here as a Kemwell, like if you focus only at 2,000 liter scale, we still can capture almost 50% of market share. And what I understand based on my survey of Indian CDMOs, I guess the 2,000 liter scale is the maximum scale with the CDMOs, and then some companies, some of the biopharma companies, they do have about 2,000 liter scale. But as a CDMO, I guess we should focus on 2 scale and try to support the increasing demand. In terms of demand, yes, the capacity is increasing. However, the demand is slightly higher. It will be higher than the capacity actually all over the world. In terms of, again, the biomanufacturing here, the North America as well as the Europe is going to dominate. Whereas in the Asia Pacific region, China is going to really dominate. They are dominating. If you see the Wuxis and maybe the Boehringer Ingelheim kind of companies, And even Lonza, I mean, they are putting huge manufacturing facilities there. So we are really behind in terms of, getting onto the global biomanufacturing map. So that's the opportunity, what we believe. So Vishal did show this slide, but what I want to mention about this slide is basically, there are around, 30 odd companies listed on this slide, and more than, 100 plus, biosimilars already approved. But what we observe here is, most of these companies, try to develop those molecules internally, and they try to manufacture those molecules. So they really don't focus on their core competencies, what we believe. I mean, rather they should focus more on, product selection. Maybe if they are working on novel biologics, they should spend time on discovery research. And then they basically, leave it to the development as well as manufacturing to the CDMOs. So that will ultimately, help them reduce their capex as well as operation costs, and then add more molecules to the pipeline and see that we basically compete with the companies in China, or maybe more global, at a more global platform as well. So what is required, for a biopharma as well as a CDMO, for a sustainable growth? I mean, what are those key attributes? So the most companies, what we observe, particularly with whom we work, I mean, they think that, the CDMOs are an integral part. I mean, they are basically extended arm of, their facility itself. So, I mean, that really helps. And, so that the communication as well as the, the relationship between both teams really goes well. Then most important thing, what we believe here is the commitment to customers' products. So a company like Kemwell is a pure play, CDMO. So we really don't have our own product. So whatever work we do here, is only for the customer. So, I mean, there is no conflict that therefore. So we are not into the hybrid business model. So we always focus on customer product. And then and we see that how we can deliver fast in terms of development, in terms of clinical batch supplies, or even in terms of producing a commercial batches for the customer. So again, the most important thing here is, the biopharma and CDMO should work closely, to predict the correct needs, like what kind of scale and what kind of, batch requirements are required basically at the early clinical stage, then maybe at a late clinical stage, and ultimately at the commercial manufacturing scale. So you map your, capacity against, the requirement with the biopharma companies. And CDMOs like us, basically, we deal with at least 3 different companies, and we have systematically mapped, and we keep things very transparent, and we are quite flexible, in terms of accommodating the manufacturing schedule, so that our customer actually doesn't suffer. We doesn't, even our capacities also are not really kept free. Now let's look at the India advantage. I mean, we talked a lot about Make in India, but again, in biomanufacturing space, I guess there is a lot to do, I guess. And we really need to create a lot of manufacturing capacities in India, and Kemwell like company is really willing to take that share, and we are willing to invest also. And by that, actually, we feel that we should be able to offer the end-to-end solution, and see that the Make in India, the Atmanirbhar Bharat mission of this government is successful. Now, few thoughts on Birac. I mean, they have done excellent work, very encouraging, by supporting, several startup companies. And, Disha was mentioning that there are 2,700 biotech companies, startups already actually existing, but these are actually focusing mainly on the discovery front. I mean, but those technologies now should actually translate into the development and ultimately should go to the commercialization. So the company like Kemwell is there actually to support, and and we are definitely cost competitive, highly time efficient, and the same quality what you see in the Western world is being offered actually from these facilities. So again, like what I want to actually, what Kemwell like company wants to suggest to Birac is basically the startup companies should use CDMOs within India, and ensure that there is a growth of CDMOs as well as the startup companies, and then ultimately, we create a win-win situation. So basically, to support Indian CDMOs to fulfill, demand within India. So I'll spend few time, I mean, maybe 4-5 minutes on the Kemwell. So we have integrated services. We offer right from process development to commercial manufacturing, and yeah, I mean, so we have scales up to 2,000 liters, biomanufacturing. We are also entering into the stem cell therapy manufacturing area as well. So we have a very proud association with Therapeutics, and Our first CGMP suite is getting ready by Q2 of this year. And so basically why I'm mentioning this is basically Kemwell is, committed. We really want to expand into the biomanufacturing space, not only into the monoclonal antibody space, but of course on a cell therapy space as well. And regarding the monoclonal antibody or maybe the next generation antibodies, we are going to expand. We have a shelf place of almost 25,000 square feet, where we will be able to add 12,000 liter of bioreactor capacity. So a lot of expansion is going to happen in Kemwell. So we could offer the mid scale, maybe a small scale manufacturing.
Sorry to interrupt.
Last 2 minutes, yeah. In terms of manufacturing, we have a success story here. Like we do manufacture one commercial drug substance, and that's a very proud association we have with one of the big multinational company. It's an Indian company, and then we have 2 drug products being commercially manufactured from this facility. These are the few case studies, particularly, we have a lot of experience doing a, scale up from a very small scale, like maybe 250 ml to maybe 2000 liter scale. This is another case study which talks about, how we have selected actually a second manufacturing site, and then how we successfully completed a tech transfer and validation, of an already approved product in a 9 months time. This is another interesting case study. What we observed actually nowadays, there are a lot of capacity constraints because of the COVID. I mean, most of the big CDMOs are occupying, to support the COVID, manufacturing needs, and therefore there is a constraint. And that's how actually we were able to, clinch a deal with one of the company based out of Pennsylvania called Ocugen. It's a public domain information. So they have tied up with Kemwell right from process development, clinical supplies, and ultimately once the product is approved by the US FDA, we will also supply their commercial needs. We are excellent in quality, so I'll skip this slide. In conclusion, again, what I want to mention here is, particularly it's urged to a lot of Indian companies here that use CDMOs, and then focus on the core competencies of drug discovery, product selection, clinical trials, regulatory, market expansion, and whereas, leave it to, Kemwell like company to do a process development, yield maximization, because that's really going to be important parameter here. For the biosimilars, because if we increase the yield, of course, there will be a affordability. And then again, reduce your capex and opex and focus on more on discovery and maybe a marketing. So I think with that, I really would like to conclude with 3 words here, like connect, collaborate, and accelerate. So that's the mantra actually Kemwell like company wants to give to biopharma.